Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet. I'll make it 7 o'clock, so we will make a start. My name is Councillor Shanti Rajwat. I'm Leader of the Council and Chair of this meeting. We've got quite a packed agenda, lots of interesting things to discuss this evening. I'm joined around the table by my colleagues on the Cabinet who will introduce themselves as they speak this evening, and officers as well of the council who don't take part in the decision making, but are on hand to offer support and advice if required. Welcome to those in the audience and welcome to those watching at home. We're going to go straight into the first item on the agenda. Apologies for absence. I've had apologies from Councillor Peter Thompson and Councillor Sayar Raza. Are there any other apologies? I think everyone else is here, actually. Yep. Are there any declarations of interest on any item on the agenda? And any communications from members? No, good. Just ask all members, voting members, to note the monitoring officer's note on interests as well. We'll go straight into the minutes of the meeting held on 17th December. I'll take it page by page. Page 7, page 8, page 9, and page 10. Can I sign those minutes? Agreed. Thank you very much. Right, we go to our first item on the agenda. Agenda item 3, SEND Children's Home and Short Breaks, Reprovision, Strategic Business Case. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Samir Chowdhury, Cabinet Member for Education, Children, Employment Skills. So in front of you, you've got today SEND Children's Home and Short Break Reprovision Strategic Business Case. So the Westbrook Short Break Unit, located at 55 New Road, Heston, requires a significant refurbishment which prevents the facility being able to adequately assist the children with physical disability. So there is no local residential home for looked after children with disability in Hounslow. So with looked after with LSA, LSE with disability are being placed in private residential home outside of the borough, which can dispute with social and education continuity, distance from familiar support structure, potentially leading to feelings of isolation. So Hounslow spends on average 241k per child each year for external CWD residential placements and up to 704k for high need placements. The projected cost for a council operated CWD residential facility is 207k per year per child. This significant financial spree highlights the need for in-house provision. So report front of you sets out the council intention to construct a new 6-bed short break unit and 6-bed CWD residential home at Vicarage Farm Road. The short break unit address our urgent needs for Westbrook short break unit reprovision. It is not expected to deliver cashable saving. The CWD residential home will reduce the council expenditure on external CWD residential placements. The investment appraisal for the project, combining the financial benefits and the cost of delivering the short break unit and CWD residential home, is assessed to provide a good value for money. The project aligned with the council vision for a healthier, thriving and safer Hounslow to Green by design principles. So the recommendation for this report are on page 12. Note the full, we've got 3 recommendations here. Note the full budget estimated of 8.4 million. Note that 4.5 million of capital financing for the project will be funded from the high needs provision capital allocation grant, and approve the capital budget for SEND and Children's Home short break provision. So with these recommendations, I move the report, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. I will second the report, and in second it, I'll just say a few words. Whilst this is quite a technical report, as a strategic business case, I think it's absolutely right and does demonstrate our investment into children with disabilities, which is absolutely the right thing to do. It's good that we've identified that Westbrook as a building is no longer the favourable option. But actually, I want to put on record how great the staff there are at what they do at supporting kids. Because having visited, I was absolutely blown away with it, and having something that is more up to date on the Vicar Farm Road is absolutely the right thing to do. So, whilst there is more work to do, I know you will be doing it. I think this is absolutely moving in the right direction, and with that, I second it. So it's now open for discussion and debate. Councillor Bath.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I was just going to say, I mean, Westbrook is an excellent provision, and it provides respite for not only the young people, but also for their families. And I think it's right that we have a better sort of facility in terms of the building. I mean, I don't know when it's been open for a long time, I understand. But yes, it's probably not fit for purpose. So it's absolutely right thing to do. I'm also actually really pleased to see the extra provision for looked after children, because I think we've spoken many times here about the actual cost in terms of having to buy external placements. So this will be really good because we'll be able to keep the provision local, and it'll be better, hopefully, outcomes for our looked after children as well. So two great things being done here. So yeah, absolutely support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Councillor Bruce.
Just to echo all the things that have been said already, it does say in the report, Reeves and Ofsted inspections highlighted the condition and suitability of the building over the long term as an issue that requires action. I think the bit that it leaves out, because it is a technical report, as you say, the bit that it leaves out is Ofsted also found superb provision there, as has been echoed. But I think that's worth highlighting, that not only do we think it is good, independently assessed inspectors also see that the service there is of very high quality. So us re-providing the building and ensuring the quality can maintain and even improve because of the quality of the physical building that's there can only be a good thing. And expanding on what we currently have and making it better can only be a good thing, and exactly what we strive to do in Hounslow. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury.
Indeed, we do. Anyone else on this one? Councillor Chowdhury, do you want to sum up?
Thank you so much. And just summing up, I'll say the building was, as stated in the report, 1970s. 1970s. Now, I would like to just say thank you very much for your support, Councillor Barr, Councillor Bruce, and Leader. This is important piece, but on this note, I would like to say thank you very much to all the staff, all officers who have been involved for looking for the site and doing a great work, and I'm sure we'll all carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. It's been moved and seconded. The recommendations are on page 12, 1, 2, and 3. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll now move on to the next item, the 2025-26 Housing Revenue Account, Dwelling Rents and Service Charges. Councillor Sampson.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Sue Sampson, Cabinet Member for Housing and Homelessness. Yes, I'm here to present this year's rent increase recommendations. The Cabinet is asked to approve 1.1 to 1.74, which is the rent increase for this year of 2.7 to be applied from April as set out in the paragraphs. Also to improve the increase in tenant service charges as set out, as laid out also. Approve the increase of district heating consumption charges by an average of £8.77 a week as set out, as laid out. Approve the proposed consumption charges of the utilities as outlined in paragraphs. Approve the estimated leasehold and freehold management fee of £324 per annum. Approve the 2.7 increase in garage rents for tenants, leaseholders and private lets mobility scooter storage, and charges for replacement garage locks and barrier keys as set out in paragraph 4.5.2. But I'd just like to say, as a registered social landlord, we are committed to continue providing genuinely affordable, safe, decent and green council homes to families in the borough in most housing need. In turn, this aligns to our corporate priority of cultivating a livable Hounslow, where residents, homes and neighbourhoods support their economic and social activities and their sense of belonging to the local community. To meet these aspirations in the face of inflation and increasing costs each year, we must review the rent and service charges billed to council tenants and leaseholders. This ensures we can continue to provide essential services at the same level that each household pays fairly for the services that it receives, and that we can continue to maintain and develop our council housing stock and estates. The government sets a limit on social landlord rent increases to ensure that they are fair. Similarly, the service charge increases are restricted to ensure any rise is no greater than necessary to allow the recovery additional costs incurred by the landlord. Accordingly, this report recommends that we increase rents by the maximum permissible 2.7% and increase service charges on a scale dependent on the services provided, which averages a slightly higher increase of 4.8%. That reflects larger increases in the cost of providing utility services and works contracts. This will result in a typical council tenant paying £134.09 per week, rent and service charge of £22.58 per week. The actual amount, of course, will vary depending on the size, location, type of the property that the tenant occupies and the range of services provided to them. In proposing these increases, we have been particularly mindful that the cost of living crisis, and we have taken measures to ensure that this does not come as an unreasonable cost to our most vulnerable residents. A majority of council tenants are on benefits, and the additional charges will simply be absorbed by additional universal credit payments. I therefore recommend this report.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. I'll formally second it and reserve my right to speak. It's therefore open for discussion and debate. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Bruce.
Thank you. Councillor Sampson's outlined in very good detail exactly what the situation is here, why we feel that we need to increase this. I think it's worth saying, this is a choice that we have made to increase at this time. We could have implemented a lower or no increase, but that reduces our ability to do all the things that you outlined. It reduces the ability for us to create good environments for people to live, to service the estates and the buildings that we own properly, and it reduces the quality of life that people under our care and that we're social landlords for are going to be able to receive. So we take this. It's difficult, but we take this choice because it's the right thing to do in the circumstances, and it means that our HRA business plan is more sustainable. And therefore, we can look to our existing stock and improve the quality there, but also look to new stock as well and increase that for people who might be on our housing list. So difficult decisions, but absolutely the right decisions to do. I support this as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Anyone else? No, I can't see anyone else indicating. So the recommendations are on page 52 to 53, 1.1 to 1.74. Can I see all those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Next item on the agenda is agenda item 5, the Climate Emergency Action Plan, 4th Annual Update. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you. Councillor Catherine Dunn, Cabinet Member for Climate, Environment and Transport, presenting the 4th Annual Update for our Climate Emergency Action Plan. The climate emergency, of course, being the biggest challenge that we face as a species. Everyone has to play their part in addressing it. Every government, every council, and every person. I've spoken many times about how proud I am that this council did not just declare a climate emergency when we did in 2019. That was the easy part. But we have fully embraced the need to act to reduce our carbon emissions and to achieve net zero in the shortest achievable timeframe. In the shortest achievable timeframe, that is what our declaration said, and that is the principle that we stick by today. We set ourselves tough targets from the outset, and we have strived to achieve them. Already, we've put in place measures that are bringing down carbon emissions in our schools, leisure centres and corporate buildings. In this report, you can read about the 70 buildings that have been fitted with heat pumps, solar panels, LED lighting and insulation, leading to a 19% reduction in the use of gas over the last year. We are now generating 18% of the electricity required to power our corporate buildings from solar power and are on track to generate 25% by 2026. We've increased the fuel efficiency of our fleet of council vehicles and replaced half of them with hybrid vehicles. And we've updated our rules around contracts to ensure that the organisations that we work with also have plans to achieve net zero. In developing and executing our plans, we're gaining an ever more detailed picture of the scale of the challenge, its complexities, and its cost. The vast majority of the funding required for these projects does not exist in council budgets and relies on external government grants and other sources of funding. And we know that we do not have the funding, sadly, to meet our interim target of a 50% reduction in carbon emissions by 2026. We also know that inaccuracies in the data for the baseline year mean that tracking a percentage reduction is difficult and potentially misleading. So I'm therefore recommending that we remove this interim target in order to focus on our primary goal of achieving net zero from council operations by 2030. This is no mean feat. It will require investment of over £100 million, and we will be developing a net zero investment plan over the coming year, overseen by a new climate investment board, which will make the case for council investment where grant funding is not available. When it comes to decarbonising council housing and other social housing in the borough, progress has been slow, as it has been for the many thousands of privately owned homes across the borough. Like the majority of homes in the country, our council-owned housing stock of 13,000 homes will not be carbon-free by 2030, and decarbonisation will not be possible through grant funding alone. To transform the homes across the borough, we're working on two hugely ambitious and exciting projects. Our plans for a district heat network to serve large parts of the borough and powered by waste heat from industrial processes, and our flagship Net Zero Neighbourhoods programme to bring in private investment to retrofit homes and improve neighbourhoods. These plans will benefit all tenures of housing, social, private rented and owner occupied. So for these reasons, I'm recommending that the council housing stock is removed from the net zero target for council operations and included within wider borough emissions. I would like to thank our officers, not just those in the climate team, but across the council, for the huge amount of work that's gone into developing these plans, that has gone into creating what I think is a very readable and transparent report on our progress, and into delivering the change that will not only reduce our impact on the planet, but create warmer homes, better facilities and pleasanter neighbourhoods. Over the next year, we'll carry out the actions set out in the report and work with our communities to help them carry out meaningful climate action at home, in their schools, community centres and workplaces. And I would invite everyone to work with us to make these plans a reality. I do have a message for those carping on the sidelines, talking about U-turns, claiming that money's been wasted or that we are backtracking on our plans. I can tell you this is not the case. We are as committed to achieving net zero now as we were in 2019, and we won't apologise for setting ourselves ambitious targets. We know from our resident survey that most Hounslow residents support our plans for achieving net zero. Those people who don't can tell us what they would like to do differently, or they can get behind our plans that are already making a difference. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Councillor Dunn. Thank you very much. I will formally second and reserve my right to speak for it's open for discussion and debate. I had Councillor Bruce first, then Councillor Shaheen.
I want to start by thanking Councillor Dunn on bringing this report. She thanked the officers, and she's quite right to do so. But I want to thank Councillor Dunn personally and individually because of the leadership, exceptional leadership you've shown on this issue. You're absolutely right. What you said at the beginning, that this is the most significant issue. This is the most important issue facing our planet at this current time and probably for the next 50 to 100 years. Hounslow is small but mighty, and every small thing that we do is going to make a significant impact for our borough's residents. And if all authorities and if all jurisdictions showed this commitment and this leadership, I think this world very quickly would be in a much better place. It clearly strikes a massive contrast with the President of the United States speech. I put speech in inverted commas the other night, who feels the opposite to us. And I think we're all in agreement around this table that he is wrong and Councillor Dunn is right. And this is exactly what we should be doing. And there are challenges, and Councillor Dunn has highlighted those challenges and talked very openly and quite rightly, you said, transparently about those challenges. But we are not in a U-turn here. We are not backtracking on our commitments. We are full steam ahead and committed to doing all that we can to reach our targets and continue doing that. And as she leads, I am following this. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Sheen.
Councillor Salman Shaheen, Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Public Spaces. Councillor Dunn, thank you for bringing this report forward. I want to echo everything that Councillor Bruce said, particularly your leadership on this issue. It was back in 2019 you first took leadership on this issue. At that time, we had Donald Trump Mark I pulling us out of the Paris Climate Accords. Now he's back and he's doing it again. And we have to recognise that the direction of travel that the richest nation and most powerful nation on earth is taking is one that is very dangerous. And it as Councillor Bruce says, Hounslow is small, but we've got to do absolutely everything we can within our power. This report sets forward the actions and the steps that we've already taken, and I think we've made some very necessary progress. It also sets out an acceptance of what we always knew, that the mountain we had to climb was incredibly steep. And I don't think there's any shame in recognizing quite how challenging this is. But if you think about it, if you think back to 2019, when we first signed that climate emergency and first set out these principles, the goal was always to achieve net zero by 2030. We set ourselves some very lofty targets. We then created a stretch goal to try and achieve half of that by 2026. That we're not going to get to there in 2026 doesn't mean we should lose sight of what we should be doing by 2030, and that will always be our North Star, and we will always be focused on that. And I think that being realistic about what we've done and where we've got to and where we're going is the key to that, rather than making any kind of false promises.
Thank you, Councillor Sheen. Councillor Bath.
Thank you, Councillor Lily Bath. I'm Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care and Public Health. I feel left out here. I want to also thank Councillor Dunn because actually, since I've known you, since you've had this portfolio, you have to say you've been committed is an understatement. Actually, you've worked incredibly hard over the years, and I actually don't think you should be detracted at all by what the criticism that we get, because this report itself is ever so clear and transparent, and I think it highlights not just the good stuff that we've done as a council, but also what we are doing in terms of moving forward. So really appreciate your constant commitment and sort of, struggle in this area, because I think you have achieved a lot, and I think we shouldn't underestimate that. And well done for your commitment. Thank you.
Yeah, completely agree with all of that. And from my perspective, absolutely thank you to you. And thank you to the organisation, actually. We all do take this seriously, and this forms part of the discussion, having a dedicated team making sure that this is being driven with Councillor Dunn's leadership is so important. And I have the pleasure of going out and about and talking to our partners, both within the borough that work with us regularly, but also externally. And they're not just interested in what we're doing, actually they want to emulate a lot of what we are doing. And sometimes they've got far deeper pockets than us, but they still find it challenging, and they are using the examples. And that is what leadership in this area looks like. I guess for my comments and reading the report, this really does come out. There is the action plan, there is the strategy, and in one respect, you could almost assume that that sits at a very high level. And actually, what we've done in this, and again, it is credit to you, Councillor Dunn, is enabled our residents to understand how small interventions can make a massive difference. I just want to pull a couple of them out in terms of highlights over the last 12 months. So 37 school streets. Our residents love school streets, but the benefit of that is better air quality in those areas. That's something that we don't even need to identify. There's a benefit there for our residents, plus in terms of their air quality, also encouraging people to cycle and walk, and that those, Councillor Dunn, you brought the transport strategy here. Changing the way we actually travel around the borough is also key to this, and they kind of link in together. I was particularly taken visiting the Heston in the Loop circular economy demonstrator, which was absolutely fantastic. And I hadn't realised that, 45 businesses, 5,000 residents engaged, 5,000 items shared or rented. I mean, that's amazing. I sat there for a couple of hours because I was fascinated watching a radio being fixed that had been broken for about 5 years. But I do need and well, you would be fascinated as well, Councillor Sheen. But just seeing that brought back into use was absolutely fascinating, and the benefit that has. The other one that I really, really like and want to draw out is the sustainable urban drainage schemes that are popping up across the borough. Our residents love them because they're green, they're beautiful, but they serve a practical purpose as well. So this isn't just about policy. This isn't just about saying the right things or chasing a target for the sake of chasing a target. This is about real interventions that our residents will benefit from wherever they are in the borough, and the planet will benefit from. And that's what the difference this plan is and this update is. So I completely agree with everything that people have said. Those that want to detract from this are doing so because they have no plan of their own, and actually they need to get behind this as well. I can't see anyone else indicating, so we'll go back to the recommendations if I can find them. I got very passionate there and highlighted that I have no hobbies. Thank you, Councillor Sheen. The recommendations are on page 73, 1 to 7. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much. And thank you, Councillor Dunn. Our next item is investing in advice services for Hounslow residents. Just before I call you in, Councillor Gurwal, Cabinet, I hope you got the supplementary papers that were released on this. There's a supplementary report on it, which was released. I remember seeing that. So, handing over to you, Councillor Ajmer Gurwal.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ajmer Gurwal, Cabinet Member for Resident Support, Communities and Equalities. So I'm very pleased to introduce this report outlining how we support access to advice services for residents for the period of 2025-2030. Citizens Advice Hounslow is a key stakeholder in our wider resident support. And just to bring to your notice, it has been delivering advice services in Hounslow since 1939 and has been funded by Hounslow Council for over 20 years. Its current contract ends in March, and so this recommends allocating a grant of £325,000 per annum for a further 5-year period. The service will provide support across a wide range of advice areas and offer casework, specialist advice and representation at court and tribunals. Residents will be able to access support via Citizens Advice Hounslow's offices in Feltham and Chiswick, outreach across the borough, including through its new mobile advice unit and through telephone advice line. It aims to ensure support is targeted to and accessible by the most vulnerable residents. Citizens Advice Hounslow supported over 15,000 residents in 2022-2023, and levels of demand remain high. It has a skilled and experienced team of staff and volunteers able to support residents to address their key concerns and issues.
It has demonstrated that it can deliver strong outcomes for residents, having secured over 15 million in income for residents in 2022 and 23, and over 8 million alone in the first 6 months of this financial year. Resident support through partners like Citizens Advice is part of our wider efforts to improve the resident experience and deliver our localities approach. We want to ensure all residents are able to access support from the council and the partners in a way that ensures the best possible experience. Citizens Advice Hounslow are key partners working with us as we move forward in this journey. So tonight I'm asking Cabinet, one, to note the outcomes and achievements of the Citizens Advice Hounslow delivered in the past 4 years, and two, to approve the grant allocation so the service can continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gurwal. Councillor Sampson, you can second?
Yes, Leader, I'd like to second and reserve my right to speak.
No problem. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. It's now open for discussion. Councillor Sheen.
Thank you, Councillor Garrawal, for continuing to support and continuing to fund the Citizens Advice Bureau. I think it's an absolutely fantastic and absolutely vital service. My mum used to work for the Citizens Advice Bureau when I was growing up, and she was a money advisor. She would work with those in the absolute direst of straits, those who didn't have a penny to rub together, and they, she would go with them to court summons and represent them. She would negotiate for them much better terms of repayment when they were up to their eyeballs in debt. And she was absolutely a lifeline for people who needed and had nowhere else to go. And to the point that as a naive young kid, I think I might have asked her once why the Citizens Advice Bureau wasn't up there with the police, fire and ambulance as one of the emergency services when you dialed 999. I just couldn't understand it. But that is how much it means to so many people. So thank you for your commitment, your ongoing commitment to this.
Absolutely. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you. I'm also delighted to see this report. So thank you very much, Councillor Gurwal. I think I was the lead member in your role last time we were renewing this contract with Citizens Advice, and just seeing the huge amount of work that they do for the residents of the borough definitely makes me think this is the right decision. They not only work with the funding that we're able to give them, but have also brought in lots of additional funding so that they can do even more work, because the demand is there. I mean, it has been increasing over the last decade, and probably will continue. And so it's so important. Like Councillor Shaheen, I've got personal experience. My dad, who is currently retired from his career, his main career is a volunteer with Citizens Advice. And so again, I'd like to pay tribute to all the volunteers as well as the paid staff who work with Citizens Advice in order to help and assist residents at their time of need.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Bath.
Thank you. We all seem to have personal experience, don't we, of the Citizens Advice Bureau? In my previous life, when I had a life, I used to actually, when I wasn't a councillor, one of my first jobs was actually working in the Citizens Advice Bureau. So I know absolutely quite well the kind of services that they deliver. And I'm also acutely aware that the demand for advice has gone up over the years. I mean, it's just crazy if you think about the actual resource and demand. So and I can only see that going up, particularly with the cost of living crisis. Claiming for benefits, for example, is very complicated. Universal credit claims are generally needed to be done online, and so there's lots of people there that need a lot of practical support. Also, debt has gone up, so we want to make sure that we are sort of commissioning the best quality advice services as possible for our residents. But it's also important to note that obviously when you are assisting clients and you're maximising their income, you're also bringing money into the economy, and I think that's really important for us here in Hounslow as well. I didn't know they'd been open since 1939, so but yeah, really pleased to support this. I'm also actually very pleased that they're going to be doing more outreach, because I think one of the things about when your demand for advice goes up, sometimes that can make it a bit more difficult for you to be more accessible to people, particularly those that are a bit more vulnerable and find it difficult to get to your premises. So I'm really pleased to see the outreach and the mobile. I think that'll be really helpful in terms of their accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Councillor Raghuvinder Sidhu.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Raghuvinder Sidhu, Lead Member for Public Safety and Regulations. So our advisory service is very special, very important in this critical time when it's digital world. So most of the residents who are vulnerable and don't know any digital knowledge. So for them, it's very important. So I echo what Councillor Bath said, that we need that help should be available to the residents. So I support this funding.
Good. I can't see anyone else indicating, so I'll move to do you want to sum up, Councillor Garrawal? No? You seconded it, Councillor Sampson. Did you want to say something? No? Okay. No, that's fine. We'll move to the vote then. The recommendations are on page 126, 1 and 2. Can I see all those in favour? This is carried. Thank you very much all. Now move on to agenda item 7, the response to the initial stakeholder consultation on the proposal to merge Cardinal Road Infant and Nursery and Victoria Junior Schools. We'll go back to Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Leader. So this report is about a proposal to merge Cardinal Infant and Nursery School and Victoria Junior. This merger has triggered the local authority amalgamation policy, which requires informal discussion due to the resignation of the head teacher of Cardinal Infant School. The proposal is to extend the age range of the infant school and close the junior school, with the merger taking effect from September 2025. This means one school with one head teacher leading the merged school, which will continue to operate across 2 sites. So informal stakeholder consultation took place from 27th of September to 15th of November 2024. 6 meetings held with parents, staff and governing body of both schools. So 71 responses to the proposal, where 79% agreed, 13% disagreed and 8% had no view. So reason for the proposal and the benefits are the continuity of education, whole school approach, parent apply once, transition to year 2 to 3, smoother, better for vulnerable people, pupils, and a leadership and management consistent across key stages. So with this, our recommendations are on page 139, 139 and 140. There are 4 recommendations, and I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. I'll formally second it and reserve my right to speak. It's now open for discussion and debate. Obviously, a very thorough process has been gone through. Can't see anyone. It's a very comprehensive report. So with permission of colleagues, we'll go straight to the vote on this. Recommendations, as you say, Councillor Chowdhury, 139 to 140, 1 to 4. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much indeed. Final report of the evening is my report. As we go into setting the budget at the end of February, this is the first very, very important report that underpins a lot of the work that will then follow on. This is the council tax base for 25-26. This makes a technical calculation on the number of Band D equivalent homes that we will have in the borough to give us a sense of the collection rate and therefore the income that we will generate off the back of council tax. I can tell you that for 25-26, that council tax base is 92,108.8 units, which is an increase of 1,408 units compared to the same report in 24-25. This also makes an assumption based on past years on the council tax collection rate, which thanks to our residents has always been very high. This year it assumes that that is 98.8%. 1.5, and the calculation for that is within the report. Slightly different this year to previous years. The one thing to note for Cabinet, there is a recommendation in this to delegate to our executive director as a section 151 officer to make an adjustment to that collection rate, because we are currently consulting, or we've just finished consulting, sorry, on our council tax support scheme, and that may well have an impact on, a small impact on these calculations. The detail of that is within the report for full transparency. However, I think for expediency in the budget setting process, and because of the importance of this report, that delegation is important. Finally, this report also talks about the NNDR1 report, which is another statutory report that the Section 151 officer has to submit around business rate collections as well, which is also detailed within the report. I am not a technical person, so I will not pretend to be technical and bore you with the formula, but I'm sure Jake will be able to answer any questions if there are any as part of the discussion. But I formally move the report. Councillor Bruce, you can second.
Happy to second and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. It's been moved and seconded. It's now open for discussion and questions. I cannot see anyone. It was such a good report, such great bedtime reading. So I'll move straight to the vote. The recommendation on this is on page 213, 1 to 4. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much, colleagues. Right, I've not had any referrals from any other committees, neither have I had any urgent business. The date of our next meeting is Tuesday, the 11th of February, here in Hounslow House from 7 p.m. Can I thank those that tuned in and those that joined us in the audience, and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.